Ms. Sangeeta Pawar, the Associate Professor with University of Mumbai.
Thank you. Respected Chief Guest of today's session, Suresh Mani sir, Cookie sir, Anupji, Michael, the organizers of today's deliberation, and my dear participant friends. At the very first part of this talk, which I want to begin with the introductory aspects only, the minute this book came to my hand, I just began with the first page, and that really made me to go to the last part, that was the acknowledgement. And the fact is, like, why I had to jump directly to the acknowledgement is to know actually what is the author trying to say, how much is the author well read. But there is one specific statement where she quotes by saying that revolutions come by reading. And is she justifying that statement? Because when you talk about a writer or author, to predict some text which is already being done, and that too when you dare to touch the text of Babasaheb Ambedkar, Annihilation of Caste, if you're not well read it, you can't justify it. So the very journey of the book from the start begins with all misleading kind of quotations and understandings and so on. Let me be very precise with you. When I went to write from the first part of the page, that is 150 pages of introduction, the very haunting thought that should come to every other reader, need not you be an academician or activist or whatever. As a plain reader, a thought should come to your mind that why does Annihilation of Caste, that too something of Babasaheb Ambedkar's great work, announcement, requires again a reintroduction. And when it has to be a reintroduction, why it should be a kind of a debatable reintroduction wherein you are trying to prove that Gandhi was a saint and Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar talking about caste, the pyramid of caste, and then talking about pollution, purity and all this kind of thing, which even the speakers right now have all very perfectly put before you. As a reader, I'm not saying as an academician, as a reader, first thing I couldn't understand that the very first page she has began with exactly talking about Malala, and then giving a story about Surekha Bhotmange, and then she keeps telling that if you have heard Malala and if you have not read Surekha Bhotmange, then you have to read Babasaheb Ambedkar. So from there on, it begins with exactly talking about how caste, what are the types of problems that the caste have in India, how the hierarchy begins, and then she tries to corroborate these contentions into a different kind of a journey, where she comes down exactly to the Banyas, the Vaishyas, and then to the corporate sector, coming out with the statistical figures about what are the type of discriminations happening in India, and then back to back again coming and talking about colonialization, imperialism, racism, casteism, and there are so many things which are completely baffling. As a commerce teacher, I would always say that if your plate is heaped up with too many dishes, you don't know where you have to start with, right? And if you really begin with having an ounce of everything, you're not satisfied. Okay, so when I talk about as a reader to get the satisfaction and then develop a loyalty, as an Ambedkar follower, I would always have that kind of a loyalty towards what Babasaheb's original annihilation of caste is. And I don't gel into the interest of understanding or even thinking of digesting what Arundhati Roy is trying to bring it to the audiences. Say very perfectly when you have to talk about, if you hide the name of the author and ask somebody to exactly give the book review of this kind of text which comes out, I guess it should be a critical anecdote which should be based only on Arundhati Roy's observation. It should not be based on exactly bringing out the debate between Gandhi and Babasaheb Ambedkar. Because we don't accept the fact that when you talk about caste as a factor which operates in India, we do have to say that there is a prevalence of it, and there is a statement which says that democracy itself has not removed caste. Right? So when you bring out this contradiction, thoroughly I feel that the book entirely is baffling. It is not at all giving you a complete juncture of how you can proclaim the observations of caste and then talking about non-valid to talk in terms with how the caste is outraging. Second thing which I would like to say is whether the book is relevant. When you talk about relevance of a particular book in terms with the appeal orientation, I find from my side at least it has to be a zero kind of relevance. Rather trying to predict something and bring it before the mass, which is itself is a misleading kind of an approach. That could be one aspect. Second is how would you really go about testifying the book? When you look forward to testify the book, there are certain things which objects me as a reader. Like one particular kind of an thing is there in some part book, she's talking about the corporate sectors and all, like, and then she has quoted some figures about the Banyas and the Vaishyas holding the entire corporate market and all, like. And then when you actually, as a reader, plain reader, say for example from my student's point of view, as a commerce student, somebody wants to read it, they'll carry that notion that yes, the people belonging to the Dalit group cannot make up their way up to that level. So there is a specification of this particular period, this particular stigma of the caste attached to them. Educationally they are not developed, discriminations are there. So a kind of social sympathy will be there. Social sympathy will be there, but gone are the days where we have to look forward to this kind of an support. You have to think in a larger dimension. You have to think from the point of view of how the sociological obligations are opening up. And on the next part, when I observe her YouTube, which is all about giving a kind of an talk, a deliberation in the US gathering in Columbia University, in the Teachers College Forum and all that, the opening kind of a lecture she begins with is talking about he was helping in the drafting of constitution and all. Like in the very first narration itself, she is trying to give a very small space to Babasaheb Ambedkar. And on the larger dimension, somehow she is looking forward to talk about Gandhi in a very glorious manner. And the glaring facts are not being opened up. Now, my dear friends, we being part of this social system, this democratic system, it's not a question of I being Ambedkar, I need to talk about or I need to read about annihilation of caste. I should not be a part of reading Gandhi. We all are well-learned people and we have read Gandhi several times. We have read Babasaheb Ambedkar several times. We are much matured enough to understand the two differences of these personalities. We are much matured to understand what exactly the debate between these two people are. And today's modern juncture also allows and does make us to still follow Babasaheb Ambedkar only for the reason that there are so-called folds of the casteism which are completely eating up the so-called development of the economy. So from that perspective, I personally feel that the book does not actually justify what the overall theme of annihilation of caste is. So the objectionable part that the very title gives up is something which will not, should not be acceptable. Next thing which comes under my observation is like, as an academician I would say, the rest of the part when we talk about annihilation of caste and how it has really percolated, what observation Babasaheb Ambedkar has, what debate took place between Gandhi and him, and then a few synoptical aspects that she has gathered and then she's drawn up in the introductory elements and all that. There she is failing to interlink or maybe interlock the objectionable aspects which has come up from the observations of Gandhi and Babasaheb Ambedkar. I personally feel she should have been more daring enough, she could have been more bold enough to have a little more good referencing and then allowing to give an equal space to both of them. Like, you know, sensibly talking or giving a name that a saint and a doctor. I mean, precisely if I just go with this sub-theme, a doctor and a saint, I'm somebody who is not Ambedkar, I would always believe that Gandhi is somewhere has to be placed high. And then, you know, the ladder has to percolate down to a kind of a follow and that has to be Gandhi. Of course, I will not agree with that because when you look forward from the point of view of understanding these two personalities together, you know, forgetting for a minute about the caste system and all, like, on the intellectual plethora, on the political plethora, on the Hindu fundamentalist angle and all, like, on the religious angle and all, like, from each aspect, prospectively speaking, predominantly speaking, definitely Babasaheb Ambedkar will have a larger space, which is failing in this particular book, which is really making me feel too bad for her. I'm sympathizing her rather, that she should have taken a little care, because her name matters when you talk about it. In fact, we should not say that she's a great iconic as long as her write-ups are concerned, okay, apart from the Gaurav Small thing and Booker aspects and other things a lot. But when it comes to this particular book, she has somewhere failed to give a proper appropriation for the book. And thank you so much for allowing me to.
Thank you, ma'am. We have for this seminar or discussion people coming from all over India, but not just Maharashtra or just out of Mumbai. And one of the voices, there are many who would want to speak, but then since we are running late, but still I would want to accommodate, I'm not the one to accommodate, rather I would want Nitin from Pune to speak on this, because he has come all the way from Pune. And this is probably the last one before we get to reach to the chief guest, and then after that we'll open the session for question and answer.
warm Jai Bhim to everyone here. Um, Let me thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. I would start by narrating two episodes, conflicting episodes in the history of Kerala, and I will come to this, I will tell you why I would be narrating these two instances. These episodes are highly educational and it will illustrate, I will illustrate its value in a while. The first one is regarding Poigail Yohanan. Poigail Yohanan was an anti-caste leader in erstwhile Travancore, and he was born as a pariah slave. At the age of 15, he converted to Christianity. The Marthoma Church promised liberation through Bible, and he believed them. As he knew how to read and write, he read and memorized the Bible. He composed songs based on the Bible. He walked with the Bible, charming his audience. As days unfolded, Yohanan realized that the Bible is simply an account of Jewish history, and it had no mention of his people, their life, their work, their joy or death. And more than the Bible, the practice of upper caste Syrian Christians troubled him even more. They never sat beside him. He found no place in their church, in their educational institutions, or in their cemetery. Soon Yohanan decides to walk out of the church, and to commemorate his descent, he burns the Bible, and many accompany him. Now this was in 1909. 18 years later, on 25th of December, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar burns Manusmriti. I think both of them were renouncing the practice of Brahmanism, and both of them burnt texts which did not communicate with them as dignified human beings. Within 1 year of Yohanan's renouncement of Brahmanical Christianity, a group of Savarna Christians submitted a representation to the Reverend Bishop of Travancore and Cochin. It was regarding a common training program that they had to attend with Dalit Christians. The grievances were as follows. Syrian Christians were compelled to dine with Pulaya Christians. Pulaya Christian students were sitting beside them. They were mingling freely with them. Now these were the kind of complaints made. They were hurt and felt insulted by the church, because the very design of the organization of the program was such that they were mingling. They demanded separate rooms for dining, resting and mingling. The bishop, one amongst them, wiped their tears and settled their demands. Now both these episodes are happening during the same time in the same place. Now what would be the commonalities that I find in these two narratives is that both are accounts of caste. Now, and in both accounts they represent the other. And in the first account you have Poigail Yohanan talking about the other, and then in the second account you have the upper caste Christians complaining against the Dalits. So these are accounts where both are talking about the other, and this is happening during the same time and the same place. And from where we stand today, these accounts also tell us about the political and intellectual journeys of Dalits and upper caste Christians. But the most important difference in these two accounts is that in the first account we have Poigail Apachin passionately trying to search for emancipation, and this emancipation was not limited to Dalits alone, but then this emancipation had something to offer to everyone. So it was universal, while the second account simply aims at securing upper caste privilege to sit separately or to eat separately. Now, we will find several such accounts across India in history, and all these accounts talk about Dalit resistance, and it also talks about upper caste privilege and violence. Now these stories are stories which continue. They are not stories of a tourist past. We often hear people say, my forefathers exploited you, not me. Histories shape our present, as already mentioned by many speakers. They mark our material and cultural realities. We walk, eat, wear, sell our histories. When we begin, so the entire question of when we start writing about caste or writing about history, to begin with, let us acknowledge that this is something very intimate and present in our own lives. So this is something that Arundhati Roy does not really do. So the castelessness that Kufir spoke about is here. So when an aristocratic Syrian Christian like Arundhati Roy decides to talk about caste, in empty statements like my father was a Hindu, a Brahmo, I had never met him until I was an adult, this will not really work. Dalit Bahujan scholars have consistently interrogated the speaker. They have forcefully questioned, as Anoop mentioned in the beginning, they have forcefully questioned the politics of why are you speaking, the practice of who are you and what do you do, and the pedagogy of how are you speaking. Why is it that you have to bring Gandhi while talking about Ambedkar? So what kind of guilt are you trying to, suffice in you by doing this? Now these questions are extremely forceful and they aim at transforming the act of speaking, reading, writing. In other words, it aims at transforming the process of knowledge production itself. They demand the necessary labor of self-reflection from the speaker, and they expose the distance between the speaker and the subject. They demand the speaker to understand her identity as relational, contextual, oppressive, and subjective. They highlight even the value of listening, that you have to listen before you say something. Very clearly, the question of writing caste thus moves beyond Dalit or non-Dalit. It becomes a matter of how you politically own up your privilege and how you then at a later stage may think of disowning it. Now, the process of writing caste for Syrian Christians should start from a detailed recovery of their own histories, where they ask about, beyond simply mentioning your caste location, what does being a Syrian Christian mean? It is important to nail down and expose their own identity politics. What are the contemporary manifestations of their casteism? How do they own their dehumanizing privileges? How does one link every day of Syrian Christianhood with communities above and below you? Now these are questions which every caste group would ask, and especially the Savarnas should be asking. And I am sure that many more questions could be added. Now if this does not happen, what would, like the lengthy introducer, we would be simply repeating our caste ordained roles. In the introduction, a Christian Baniya talks about a Hindu Baniya under the pretext of introducing Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. And now this reminds me of, in the early decades of 20th century, Tirukochi had a very interesting ritual where grains and oil could be brought to an upper caste household by the lower caste only when it travels through the Syrian Christian household. The traditional role of purification continues in the case of this introduction. An upper caste audience can consume a self-sufficient radical text only when a Syrian Christian performs the caste ordained purification ritual. Since they have the knowledge of world trade, they would even market the text, and this process is extremely dangerous and this should be challenged. And finally, I would like to say that more than evaluation, it should be engagement with the democratic struggles of Dalits, with their literature, and this engagement should compulsorily implicate the speaker in the text. It cannot be, academic tourism. Borrowing from bell hooks, it should be a process of self-actualization where you start talking from within your community itself. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Nitin. That was really enlightening. Thanks for sharing. Now I'd like to hand over the mic